Hello.
Hi everybody. I'm Jen and this is Brad. And we did a video about some dreams that we had a few days ago. I hope you've had a chance to check that video out. If not, then you can look at my page, which is Signs of the Times, and you can find it there. I think Brad's going to try to upload it to his. I'm not having much luck with that right now, though.
If we can figure it out.
So why are we on here together, Brad?
We want to talk about the Sabbath.
That's going to be our first video. We've decided we're going to do videos together as well as separately. And we felt that the Sabbath was an important one to cover, especially for one of our first videos. So, what is the Sabbath?
The Sabbath is a day of rest.
It is. It's a day of rest that was actually put into existence before the Ten Commandments. I don't know if you guys knew that, but it was actually put into existence in the beginning. It was after the sixth day of creation, and God rested on the seventh day. So that would be Genesis 2, 2 to 3. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah, let's read that.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, we're still trying to figure this out on how we're going to do our videos, so hopefully the ones in the future will be a little more prepared for. But I'll get it here. And I read now, I from the time I was 11 years old until just a year and a half ago, I used the NIV, but I found a lot of discrepancies in it, so now I switched over to the King James, which is what he's always used. So 2, 2 to 3, and on the seventh day God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all of his work which he had made. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all of his work which God created and made. So that is actually the introduction of the Sabbath day. It was a day of rest. Now, does God need to rest?
No.
No, he doesn't. But Jesus clarified in the New Testament that it is not unlawful to do good on the Sabbath. So God doesn't actually ever rest, but he rested from actual creation, which is working, what we would liken it to working with our hands.
Sure.
So if your mother-in-law's car got stuck in a ditch, you're not going to leave her in the ditch overnight. You're going to go and get her, regardless if it's the Sabbath or not, because that's the right thing to do. Or if you see someone stranded on the road, you're going to help them change their tire, or wait with them maybe until the tow truck gets there if you're out. If you're at the house and your kid skins their knee, you're going to put a Band-Aid on it. It's not unlawful to do good things on the Sabbath. So God always works everything to good.
Or, like Jesus said, the cattle was in the hole. Go ahead and get the cattle out of the hole.
I think it was a sheep.
Whatever it was. It was an animal stuck in a hole.
Yes. So basically on the Sabbath, which we're to follow, regardless if you believe in Jesus or if you're a Jewish person, you're supposed to rest on the Sabbath. And we'll talk about how it applies to people that believe in Jesus later, because we've heard a lot of retorts to that, a lot of remarks that go against the Sabbath. But we're going to try to help clarify it for people that don't necessarily understand that in a New Testament aspect. So what is the Sabbath for is the next question. I have, in case you're wondering what I'm looking down at, I have a list of questions that we came up with.
That we get smoked with.
Constantly.
So,
what is it for?
The Sabbath is a day of rest.
Okay, but we need to kind of expound on that.
Sure.
So,
we use the Sabbath to study the Word, to help family, to rest,
to teach our children.
We
teach ourselves.
We
well,
do.
Allow teaching.
We study.
To us.
We do different things on the Sabbath. We try not to do any of our everyday work.
Right. You're supposed to refrain from normal work. No work is to be done. Nothing that would produce money or any kind of gain.
Right. It's not about that. We
It's
try
not
to keep it about
gaining
God.
for yourself.
Try to even keep the lights and TVs off.
For the most part, yes.
Like we did today.
Most of the day. Probably about 90% of it.
Probably about 80.
I think the kids watched a TV show, but it was on Pure Flix and it was about God, so I'm okay with that. I guess it's up to the individual household, but I know in traditional Israeli households, they turn everything off. They turn the lights off, they turn the TVs off, and they literally just spend the day with each other and reading. And I think that's a really good model, even if you don't, like, we let the kids watch a TV show, but I think it's a really good model to go after, that you don't need any of the outside distractions and you just focus on God and your family and teaching your kids the way in which they should go. So the Sabbath is a day that is sanctified to God. And basically what sanctified means is that it's set apart from all of the other days. So it is like there's a line and the Sabbath is on one side and the other 6 days are on the other side.
Right.
And it is a day that is holy for God, which means that holy, if you look up the definition of holy, there's a whole bunch of definitions. But in this particular context, it means religious purpose. So it's set aside for religious purpose. And a lot of people don't like the word religion or religious because they think it's a whole bunch of sacraments and things of that. And there's a certain context that can be useful in, but basically it's set aside for holy works. So something you would not normally do is, on a normal working day, is go feed homeless.
Sure.
So you could go do that. It's not unlawful to do good. You can go find homeless people and feed them. Or you can, what's something else that they could do that's a religious work on the Sabbath?
You could pretty much go help anybody.
Yeah.
If anybody needs help, including family, strangers, friends. It's not
for personal gain.
It's not for personal gain. I don't think that Jesus actually clarified. He came and he clarified all this. The guys at the synagogue, the priests and the elders and the Sadducees and
Pharisees.
Yeah, all those guys brought up all the silly stuff about why are you letting your disciples do this stuff on the Sabbath. And
like with the guy that he healed, he said, take up your mat. And they're like,
whoa,
what are you doing? You can't carry your mat. And Jesus is like,
whoa, guys.
Oh, hang on.
He didn't say, stop, we're not doing the Sabbath anymore. He just literally said, stop being silly and following man's law. Get up and walk with your mat. You haven't ever walked before. Walk with your mat. It's okay.
And
it's the Sabbath.
He also said, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. Is something. Right. He actually quoted that from Moses, who said that in the Old Testament. But
he came to clarify all that, not just the Sabbath, but other things. And Jim was actually bringing up earlier, which it made me think a little bit. Like, people say, well, we don't have to do the Sabbath anymore. And she said, well, he said that we didn't have to do any of this stuff anymore then, so we can just murder somebody and ask for forgiveness.
I mean, it's one of the 10 Commandments, so if we don't have to follow the Sabbath, then we shouldn't have to follow adultery or
we could
murder,
just ask for forgiveness.
Or honoring our parents, or putting God number one, since that's the first commandment.
What about those idols? That's the one you
idols,
said. Yeah,
let's just go ahead and pray to the
idols. It's okay. We'll just ask for forgiveness later.
Or not, because they don't think it's wrong.
Why not?
The people out there, like, not to put the Catholics down, because I have a few Catholic friends, but they pray to the statues of the saints as intercession. But the Bible's pretty clear. There is 2 intercessors, and most people think there's only one, but it actually says 2. And the first one, obviously, is Jesus, or Yeshua HaMashiach, and the other one is the actual Holy Spirit of God, which I'll do a different video on that later because I don't want to get down that wormhole.
And by the way, we're still in protest. There's a lot of people that's not protesting against the Catholic Church. We're still protesting.
Yeah, we're not just we don't consider ourselves Protestants.
We're protesting,
but we do protest. Okay, and so let's not get off track. Let's go back. So it is. So it's a day that's sanctified, and it's a day that is holy. It is also a day that is blessed by God. So it's sanctified to God, it's holy for God, and it's blessed by God. So that's 3. And if you don't know, you can follow a pattern in the Old Testament. 3 is the number of consequence. So not only do you have 7, which is God's perfect number, in there, but 7 is actually in there 3 times in Genesis 2:2-3. If you read that, it says 7, 7, 7, and then here again, it's 3 different parts. So it's actually a number of consequence. So it is his perfect day, and there are consequences to not following it. And he actually describes those in Exodus chapter 20. Just FYI, if you want to go look it up. I'm not going to read the whole Exodus 20 chapter, but it's in there. You should look it up. But anyway, so what does blessed mean?
We definitely like to bless that food. It's blessed.
See, he likes to joke, and I like to give definitions. That's why we're a good pair. I like to be serious. He likes to joke. It's a perfect combination. But anyway, so blessed means it is endowed with divine favor. So God is in favor of the Sabbath day, but it also means divine protections. There's protection in the Sabbath day. God wants the Sabbath day protected, and he wants to protect those who keep the Sabbath day.
No doubt.
So those are, I mean, that's pretty big stuff if you actually look into the definitions of the words and you don't just read it, because anybody can just read it. I have a friend who's Hindu, I have a friend who's Buddhist, and I use the term friend not loosely because I talk to them not often, but more than just occasionally. But they aren't like my best friends, but we respect each other, and we've actually had religious conversations before. So they've read parts of the 10 Commandments, and they can just read it. Oh, he sanctified it, it was holy, and it was blessed. And that's just, it's gone. It's important for us who believe in God and believe in the Savior that we actually understand the meaning and the connotation behind the words that he uses, so we can get a full grasp on what he's trying to say. So it's a day that believers entertain the relationship, as we talked about. We study about God. A lot of people use the term relationship to kind of slough off the religious aspect, because there's that word religion again, but they slough it off, saying, well, it's not about religion, it's about relationship. Well, in the next point that I'm going to bring up, I'll show you where that's not necessarily 100% true. Yes, we have to have a relationship, and in order to have any prosperous relationship, you have to spend time with the other person, or in this case, entity. So you have to spend time in God's words. John 1:1 says, in the beginning was God, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And so if we want to spend time with God, then we have to spend time in the Word.
No doubt.
And Exodus 20, which is the 10 Commandments, as I've already suggested, you go and read that. But a point that a lot of people bring up is, well, the commandments were only given to the Jews.
Yeah, just heard the other day.
So you want to explain about the Jews a little bit and who they are in comparison?
The Jews are only one of the 12 tribes. They're only one. A lot of people get that confused. They're like, oh, those are all the Israelites. Everybody else is Gentiles. I don't think that's true.
No, it's not that you don't think it's true. It's not true.
Well, I was trying to be nice. The Jews are just one. And they've made it home. They're there, some of them are here, some of them are across the world. The reality is the other 11 tribes are still spread out across the entire world. They're everywhere. Mm-hmm. They're going to get home one day.
There aren't other Israelites in Israel either.
Sure.
There's the Levites, the Levitical order, There are some Benjamites that are
and
there.
there's some found in Africa we were looking at
that
here.
were
So
98% positive match DNA-wise to the Levites, though their skin color had changed. They were still a 98% DNA match.
Yep.
There are people found in the mountains of India that were very secluded from the normal people of India.
Right.
That practiced nearly 100% of the Judaic customs. Very nearly.
The Africans were real close too. They were following to a T.
Yeah, they even had the prayer shawls that had the blue tassels on the end and everything that was prescribed in the Old Testament for the priesthood. And so it is not illogical to think that the people have not been brought home yet, because they're still out there.
Definitely.
They haven't found the missing tribes.
Not all
by
of them.
any means. Not all of them, anyway. But so was it only for the Israelites that came out of Egypt, the Ten Commandments?
It was not. The Israelites were around strangers daily. And
For
people that
400 years.
They were around
roughly.
people all the time. Throughout the whole Bible, they were around people that were not Israelites, or were not Jews, or were not Benjamites, or any of them. They were around all kinds of strangers, and those strangers were invited in. Some of them would actually take up the faith, and some of them would not.
And the ones that would not didn't have a very pretty outcome.
They didn't usually stick around very long.
So the Ten Commandments were given to not only the Israelites, but all of the people, slaves, not slaves, free people, but everybody who came out of Egypt with the Israelites when they saw what God did. So instead of praying to a wooden or stone statue,
or cow,
they saw actual miracles happen in front of them, terrifying miracles.
Sure.
Not even just good ones like, oh, he raised a person from the dead, because that's amazing, but that was, a good thing. Or let me heal you of your sickness. You've been bleeding for 12 years, lady. Let me heal you. You touched my garment. Who touched me?
Who was that?
But they saw these terrifying things happen, and they're like, man, this must be the real God. So it wasn't just the Israelites. There were 600,000 men, Israelite men. That's not including the women, the children, the not of age to fight in the Israelite army that they were forming, boys. That wasn't including the foreigners, or as they call them, they either call them strangers, aliens, or foreigners.
Sure.
But the term is all the same. But it says, you shall have one law for both you and the stranger who sojourns with you. So that means that everybody who came out of Egypt to follow God had to follow God, or they couldn't be around the Israelites. And I don't know if they decided to depart before something bad happened to them, or if and I know some of them met a untimely doom. One guy was stoned, and another family fell into a pit, and just all kinds of bad things. But
that was a long 40 years.
It was a very long 40 years. So another way that we can tell if a person is following Jesus and following God is if they keep the commandments, or at least try to.
That's said so many times in the Old and New Testament, you can't avoid it.
The prime
It doesn't
verse,
say some of the commandments, it says the commandments.
Right. And the prime verse I'm going to use for that is actually 1 John. Let me flip to it. Pages are really thin here. And again, you'll have to bear with me. Nope, that's not it. I saw a J. And I was like, keep going, okay? I feel like a bunch of pressure. I feel like I would have already found it if we weren't recording. So, don't mind me as I turn a little red from embarrassment and not being able to find this script here. Just gonna do. It's back here. I gotta find it. You want to talk about something while I'm finding this?
You're looking for John?
Well, 1 John specifically, and chapter 2. verse 3. I feel like I'm just skipping over it over and over and over again because it's in this area. Do you want to find it in your Bible? Do you have your Bible with you?
No.
And why is that?
It's still on the table.
From our lessons earlier. I'm just going to go through here page by page because apparently flipping through it and doing it for me. So we'll just flip through. There's John. Oh, I found it.
Hello,
okay.
John.
Sorry, guys. All right. 1 John chapter 2, verse 3. And actually, I'm going to read to 5. No, 6. Okay. And hereby we do know that we know him if we keep his commandments. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments is a liar, and the truth is not in him. But whoso keepeth his word, in him verily is the love of God perfected. Hereby we know that we are in him. He that saith he abideth in him ought himself also so to walk, even as he walked. So we are supposed to walk as Jesus walked.
Wait a minute, that's just for the Jews.
But this was written when the Gentiles were coming into the church.
Oh, so it's not just for the Jews.
It's not. It's not just
We're
for
all
the Jews.
supposed to keep the commandments.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I see.
So another point that people bring up is that Jesus came to fulfill the law, so the law doesn't apply anymore.
Law doesn't apply. Eat all the pig you want.
It's legalism. You're being legalistic. We're not bound to the law anymore. Well, no. We're not bound to the law anymore. That's the good news. We're not bound to it that every single time that we mess up that we should get stoned to death. So no, we're not bound to it anymore. But as believers, we should follow the law, or at least try our hardest to prove our faith. We have to prove that we believe. Jesus warned in Revelation 3:16 that the lukewarm will be spit from his mouth.
And they will.
In Matthew, I forget the actual verse, but it says, Lord, Lord, many will come in my name, saying, Lord, Lord, and he will say, I depart from me, I never knew you. Or in another book, it says, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. Iniquity is sin. If you are sinning purposefully, I mean, you're not following Jesus. Jesus said in John 14:15, if you love me, keep my commandments.
Says it again in Revelation. Says it again in Peter. Says it again so many times in the Old and New Testament.
Oh man, in the Old Testament, I'm in the process of going through and highlighting every single time it says either one of two things. Either follow my commandments, or they did not follow my commandments, so this bad crap happened to them. So I'm in the process of highlighting, and Brad it irks his nerve that I write in my Bible, but that's what I do.
Makes me sick.
So it's not legalism, because no, we're not technically bound to the law. We're not going to die of a stoning or die in a pit that's going to open from the ground when we transgress, because Jesus was the atonement. His blood was the final sacrifice.
Sure.
Leviticus 17:11 says that the blood is given to us as atonement for the soul, and so Jesus' blood fulfilled that. And another point I want to bring up is that the commands that were given to the Israelites when God brought them up out of Egypt were a covenant. It's not just the book of the law or the book of the Ten Commandments. It's the book of the covenant, or books of the covenant. And covenant means agreement. It's like a handshake. There's I'm going to do this and you're going to do this. God even said that he said, I will be your God and you will be my people.
Right.
But they can only be his people if they keep his commandments. It's an agreement. He'll protect them. He'll be their God if they keep his commandments. And who's they? The Israelites and the strangers that sojourn among them, to include the Gentiles, which in Isaiah and Jeremiah and many of the old prophets said eventually the doors would be opened to the Gentiles. And then in Acts we saw that fulfilled with Paul and Barnabas and Silas and Timothy as they went and did their works as the apostles, reaching to, and even Peter when he was sent to, was it Cornelius' house, I think? Was that his name?
Yeah, Cornelius and his family.
So we saw the fulfillment of that in the New Testament, but that was.
And then old Timothy had to get his circumcision at like 30 years old. We read that today.
We don't know if he was 30 or not, but he definitely wasn't a little boy.
He remembers it.
He remembers. He's gone. Yeah, there you go. He might remember it again when he awakens.
Man, that really hurt, guys.
Paul, that was a bum deal.
I really wish you had more of a steady hand there, buddy.
This guy.
That's great. I thought about it while we were reading it today. I was like, man.
Oh, man.
I hope you trust that guy.
The point is, it's an agreement. So God has commandments, and He will be their God. And in order for Him to be our, you stop. That's enough. You're like a 13-year-old boy right now.
That was great.
Anyway, so it's an agreement, and God doesn't break His covenant unless the people break it first. And we see that time and time again in the Old Testament. They mess up, God allows something bad to happen to them.
Sorry.
Okay, I realize it was just a click of a mouse, and so like a millisecond for you guys, but we actually had to take a break so Brad could collect himself. Don't start laughing again.
I'm not. The laughing is over.
When Brad gets tired, he gets the giggles, and it's pretty late, so. Anyway, so I believe where we were at was that it's not legalism, and we're not bound to the law, but so that way we don't have to get stoned or swallowed up in a pit or anything like that. It actually shows our faith and proves our faith.
Yeah, that's what you were
saying. Whenever we follow the commandments. We're not going to get it 100% right. And one of my friends brought up to me, well, there's 613, so how can we be required to follow all of those? Well, because it's God's laws, but that doesn't mean he realizes that we're not going to be able to do that, which is why he had to send an atonement for us, a permanent one, not just animal sacrifices every now and again, but
right.
But like a permanent one, that because we constantly break them, whether we're trying to or not, we just constantly break them. Jesus came to clarify and said that, if you even have anger in your heart, it's the same as killing somebody. Yep. And
you even look at a woman, it's same thing as adulteress.
Mm-hmm. And so, and another thing that one of my friends brought up to me was that she said, well, Jesus came to fulfill the law, so all was fulfilled when Jesus died. But that's not true. His part in the story, coming here and clarifying that part, was finished. That's why he didn't say all is fulfilled and then died. He said it is finished. His part on earth as the sacrifice itself was finished, and he then thus provided an atonement for us.
That's right.
So in 5:17 to 19, I'm going to read that, Matthew 5:17 to 19. It says, "Think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but fulfill." And in Greek, that word has many different meanings, but the most prominent one is actually the word enforce. So he came to enforce the law by clarifying it, because he was the law.
Stop following man's traditions, and here's the actual.
He said that many times. He said, he actually warned the disciples against the Pharisees and Sadducees, because they were being what people now would term legalistic, such as don't carry your mat even though you haven't walked your entire life, because it's unlawful to carry your mat on the Sabbath. Whereas Jesus' only instruction to him, which wasn't at that exact moment, but he found him later to be sure that he said it to him, was, and he said this to many people.
Several.
Quit sinning. that was his thing that he told everybody. He was like, follow me and quit sinning.
Drop everything you got and follow me.
And I think we should also tell them that about what sin is. And sin, very simply, is transgression of the law. Without law, we wouldn't know what right and wrong is. So if the law doesn't apply anymore, then how do we know what's right and wrong? It's pretty simple. You have to have a set of rules that you obey or don't obey in order to keep the law or break the law. There has to be a law. So if Jesus said to quit sinning, that means that the law still applied even when Jesus was here.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
So, anyway, so verse 18 now. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, as far as we can tell, we're still here.
Earth is still here.
Right? And heavens, the stars are still here? Yes? Okay. Sorry, we're a little sarcastic too. One jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law till all be fulfilled. Now, they didn't really know exactly what all meant. I mean, they had Isaiah and Jeremiah, which told of the end times, particularly Isaiah, was telling of what was going to transpire in the end and in the millennial kingdom. But really, the final revelation didn't come until many years later when John was a prisoner on Patmos.
That's
and
right.
Jesus was revealed the revelation which he gave to the angel, and the angel then gave it to John. And so John wrote it down and gave it to us so we would know what all be fulfilled meant.
That's right. In game.
All. New heaven, new earth. End of story. There's that's the end, is when we reach the new heaven, new earth. The end isn't actually what we call the end times. It's not the 7 years of, 3.5 years peace, 3.5 years technical war against the saints of God, but it is, and it's not the millennial kingdom, the 1,000 years that come after that. That's not the end either. It's not Judgment Day at the White Throne Judgment. That's not the end. The end is when we have made it with God to the new heaven and the new earth, and this earth is baptized in fire and thrown into the fiery furnace. That is the end.
New heaven, new earth created.
And we are not in a fiery furnace.
Not yet.
And as far as I'm aware, the heavens haven't been shaken, and the luminaries or angels or stars have not fallen to earth.
Right.
The heavens, the sky hasn't receded like a scroll.
The sign of Jonas hasn't hit.
Yeah, we haven't been through the tribulation. So there's still a lot to happen before all be fulfilled. So when Jesus said it is finished and died on the cross, or the pole, whatever you want to call it, that he died on, the tree, he was saying that his part, his sacrifice was finished. Not that all was finished, but his sacrifice was finished. And that's where he was pointing out, until heaven and earth pass away.
It says that, by the way.
That's Matthew 5:18. And then he goes on to say in verse 19, whosoever therefore shall break one of the least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So here again, he's enforcing the law. He's enforcing the commandments and clarifying who will be greatest and who will be least, and what that will mean for you technically in judgment. So I hope that brings some sort of perspective to you that maybe you haven't considered before. And then Another one I've heard recently is, well, Jesus is my perpetual Sabbath, so I Sabbath with him every day, so I don't have
He
to
takes
obey.
the place of the Sabbath.
So I don't have to obey the seventh day Sabbath. Well, that's not anywhere in the Bible. I've read the Bible, and I've read the New Testament about 3 times now, and it's not in there. No, what is in there is that Jesus is the Lord of the Sabbath.
Right.
And that the Sabbath was created, and the thing that I just want to go back to Jesus being the Lord of the Sabbath really quick. So, like, Jesus is our Lord, right? And people term him as the Savior. I look at it more as an atonement, because in Isaiah it says that God is the Redeemer and Savior, because without his plan we wouldn't have Jesus. But neither here nor there on that. He is the Lord of the Sabbath, which means that he has dominion over the Sabbath. He has authority over the Sabbath. He enforces the Sabbath.
He followed the Sabbath.
And he followed the Sabbath, not a Sabbath. Now, there's a place that's often taken out of context when the Pharisees and the priests came up to Jesus and told the people that Jesus didn't follow the Sabbath because his disciples were hungry and they were picking corn, I believe. And that's also with the unwashed hands, that they were defiling themselves because they hadn't washed their hands. And Jesus again told them...
He brought up the King David story, did he not?
I don't remember if it was that one or one of the other ones.
One of the times he did bring up did David and his soldiers not step in there and eat the bread of the...
And of the priests and the
priest's bread. They weren't supposed to do that, and that was okay. You know, what's wrong with the guys picking some corn?
Again, with the mercy, not sacrifice thing. Like, if you're hungry, he said it's not what goes in your body that defiles you, but what comes out of the body. With exception to pork and shellfish. Sorry, guys. It's part of the laws as well.
Another video.
Another video, another time, another rabbit hole. So in order to understand why he's the law or the Lord of the Sabbath, is to understand that, again, we're going to go back to John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. Jesus was the fleshly indwelling of the Word. He was the Word turned flesh. It literally says that. So he cannot go against the Word because he is the Word. So it's not true that he didn't follow the Sabbath. He just required mercy and not sacrifice
and
when it came to the Sabbath.
And we keep saying clarification because he told everybody
it's not unlawful to do good on the Sabbath. When he healed the man on the Sabbath and they accused him of not following the Sabbath, that was another time. Maybe that was the one where they actually accused him of not following the Sabbath, and the corn thing was just about defiling because they hadn't...
Get behind me, Satan.
That was to Peter.
Oh yeah, that's Peter.
Anyway, and but he said it is not unlawful to do good on the Sabbath, and that's kind of where we started the video out at. You know, it's not unlawful to help people on the Sabbath. If you're one of the people that cannot, like my mother, I love her, but she cannot sit still. It's not in her blood to just sit there. She has to be doing something. So for people like that, especially, I think it's important that you do something good on the Sabbath.
For sure. You
know, you don't have to go out and work to get money, and you don't have to go out and do hard labor, like, you know, shoveling gravel or something for somebody. But, you know, again, I'm going to bring up homeless people touch me, and I just have a soft spot for them. So if you want to go out and feed the homeless on the Sabbath, it's not unlawful to do that, because while it's technically work, it's spiritual work. Or if you want to go out and hand out pamphlets about Christ, or if you want to go out and talk to people, it's not unlawful to talk to people about God and to try and bring them the good news about salvation and try to save these people. It's not unlawful to do that. You don't have to just sit in your house on your butt staring at a wall. That's not what it's for.
We've done things, or I've done things like going and helping a family member with their car, or
We fed homeless.
Going and helping a stranger with their car.
And we're not bragging about these things at all. They're things that everybody should be doing, but we're giving examples.
That are okay. It's okay to go help somebody that's in need. They need that horse. So, put some new shoes on it.
Again, I think it was a sheep.
Could have been a sheep.
But, okay, so another one. Let's tackle this one. I Sabbath on Sundays.
Oh, the old Sunday guy, are you?
My Sabbath is on Sundays. I worship God on Sundays. That is my day that's set apart. I do all of my work on Saturday, and then I go to church on Sunday, or I listen to a preacher online on Sunday, and we do it as a family, and we don't really work on Sundays, so my Sabbath is on Sunday. I mean, that sounds like a day is set apart for God. Is that the reality?
No.
No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. It doesn't cut it. It's not about when you have time for God. It's about when God designates his time for you. And
it's a fine day. It's a fine day to go and do what you're going to do, and that's fine.
And it doesn't mean you can't go to church.
Go to church.
Doesn't mean you can't go fellowship with people as an extra day. We should actually be worshiping God every day.
Sure.
And we should be learning about him every day. We should be reading our Bibles every day. We should try to fellowship as often as we can with other believers. But the fact remains that there is one day that is sanctified, holy, and blessed from, to, and for God. And that is the seventh-day Sabbath. It is in his 10 Commandments. So you may rest on Sunday, but the Sabbath is the seventh day. You can actually even pull up a calendar. If you pull up the calendar in your phones, I'm going to get my phone here and see if I can show you. So we don't, obviously, here in the United States, go by the Hebrew calendar. We go by the Gregorian calendar, which is actually Roman, or the Julian calendar. Are we on Gregorian? We're Gregorian right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. I get so confused with the names of the calendars. Like, I don't really care. Just, how am I supposed to plan my week? but anyway, okay. So I'm going to see if you can see this. And I think you can. But it says Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Okay? So Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Sunday, even the Roman calendar shows Sunday as being the first day of the week. Why is that? Because Rome, again, we're on a Roman calendar. Even though we're the United States, we still follow a Roman calendar, and most of the world follows Roman calendar. Because Rome is all throughout the world, even though they split up, they're still all throughout the world. So the Roman calendar has Sunday for, it's literally sun day, just like Monday is moon day. So they worshiped the sun and the moon because they were a pagan culture. So Sunday was actually the first day because they worshiped on the first day, and they worshiped the sun on the first day of the week. God commanded the last day of the week, do everything else that you need to do throughout your week, the 6 days beforehand, and then on the seventh day, take your rest.
Give it to
rest
God.
After your work. Don't rest before your work. Rest after your work.
Right.
If we rest before our work, it makes us lazy kind of throughout the whole week, versus if we rest after the work, we've gotten the work done that we need to get done. So it's very important to understand that the seventh day is the Sabbath. The Sabbath, again, just to reiterate, I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but it is sanctified, holy, and blessed by God. It is the seventh day. 6 days you shall work, and on the seventh day you shall rest. And just to clarify for people who are asking, no, we are not Seventh-day Adventists.
No.
We don't. Now, a lot of the things with them we do agree with, but
Sure.
a lot of the things we don't agree with. Just like there are things in Catholicism that hold truths, but there's a lot of things that don't. Or in Mormonism, there are some things that hold truths, but a lot of things that don't. And the only way you're going to be able to discern what is true or not is if you read this.
For yourself.
For yourself. Don't
listen to Mr. Sunday.
Mm-mm.
Read it for yourself. And by the way, the Sunday, look this up for yourself. The Sunday worship was created by man.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus never said to do that. Nor did his disciples say to do that.
Not one time.
Look for yourself. We're not making this up.
There's a verse in Acts that people also, and I don't have it off the top of my head, and I didn't write it down because it just popped into my brain. But there's a verse in Acts where it says that the disciples or the apostles met on the first day of the week, and they take that completely out of context. They met several times, and there was only mentioned one time where they met on the first day of the week. All the rest of the time, it's Sabbath synagogue, Sabbath teaching, on the Sabbath, Sabbath this, Sabbath that.
Yeah, so everybody takes
actually,
that one time that they... Actually, I think it was talking about they were gathering to...
No, they were breaking bread. They were gathering to eat.
I thought that was the one where they were talking about getting together for the treasury or the money for the week, figuring out what they were going to do as far as...
That might have been part of it.
I believe so. I'd have to look at that myself.
I know they were breaking bread, though, so maybe they discussed it over dinner, which would make sense. Full bellies makes for clear heads. Happy people. At least in this house. Because I like to eat.
As do I.
But, and we don't want to seem like we're harping on anybody, because we have not we have not always followed the Sabbath.
We have not.
It's a recent, well, I don't want to say recent, like as if we've only been doing it for like a week or two. No. But in comparison to our lives, it's a recent thing. We've been doing it for a couple years.
I followed it as a child. My parents told me all this when I was real young, and we did it till, I moved out pretty much. And
my dad did not. He was a Southern Baptist minister.
Yeah.
So he was very Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night.
Which
is fine.
It's okay if you're going to go in and actually do what you say you're doing and actually read the word and not listen to everything you're told. And the Catholics made up the Sunday church. They made it up purposely. Mm-hmm.
They actually they take credit for it in the Book of Catechism. You have to look in the Book of Catechism, and it says that and it's actually based off of, okay, so I'm a nerd and I do a lot of research and we discuss it. Plus, he works and I stay home with the kids, so I have maybe a little bit more time. Not a lot, but a little more time too. But actually, it was this fellow named Ignatius who is seen as a church father, even though we're not supposed to call anyone on earth father. But regardless, here nor there, he actually is the one who started that movement around like 175 AD or something like that. And he... so kind of put that idea out there, and then at the Council of Nicaea or Nicene, whichever you want to call it, I think it's officially the Council of Nicaea, but that's where they were deciding what to put into the Roman Catholic faith, which is where all the Protestants branch off from. They don't come from outside the Catholic Church, as many of you think, because the Protestants have such an issue, or have had in the past such an issue with the Catholic Church. It's because they came, out of the Catholic Church, but they still kept a lot of the traditions of the Catholic Church, unfortunately. But again, if you read through, and I'm not, again, talking bad about people, we're just trying to get people to understand that that is not what the Word says.
I believe the Word says the Sabbath day is actually your seal, your seal of God. Mm-hmm. And I think that in the end, that's what God's looking for. And I think the angels will even be able to tell who's who, and I think Satan will be able to tell who's who. Ink. It'll be not that everybody that worships on Sunday is going to hell or taking the mark, but I think that once the Sabbath is forced on Sunday, that the people that continue to have the Sabbath on the day it's supposed to be, which is Saturday, last day, then I think that that's going to play a big role in as far as who's
being
who
able
and who's
to tell
where.
Who is a true believer and who was just following it because it's what they were raised to do. And unfortunately, in my case, I was just I thought I knew a lot about the Bible. I knew everything because my daddy was a preacher and I listened to everything that he said. And I said it on a previous video on my Facebook page, but which I'm about to shut down, unfortunately. But I said on a video previously there that I'm not trying to talk bad about my dad, but he had a lot of it really wrong because he grew up Southern Baptist, so he was already indoctrinated with their traditions. Then he went to a Southern Baptist seminary. And a Southern Baptist college prior to seminary. So he actually went to a Southern Baptist college, and then he went to a Southern Baptist seminary. And So he was taught what to believe and how to believe instead of really reading it himself. And I'm not talking bad about my dad. I don't think he intentionally led anybody astray. He was a good guy, and he tried to follow the commandments, or what he saw as what the commandments were. But he got it really wrong because he didn't bother reading the Bible straight way through. I don't remember him ever as a child just reading it straight way through. He would go to the concordance and he would pick and choose verses, as most pastors do. And this fits in the context of what I'm talking about. But it really doesn't, because you have to read the context of the passage itself. So that was unfortunate. So Brad was fortunate enough to grow up in a family where they did the Sabbath, but it's only been the last few years that I really have been enlightened to it. And I could thank Brad for that, but neither of us. You
found it out on your own. It wasn't like I forced you.
Right. Well, neither of us were really on the right path when we met.
This is true.
But God kind of woke us both up at the same time. Hey, Brad, you need to go back to the way that you were taught. Hey, Jen, the way that you were taught isn't exactly 100% correct. I'm going to need you to do some research and actually read what I'm saying. And so when you read the Bible and you read it Genesis to Revelation, or New Testament, Matthew to Revelation, Old Testament, Genesis, is Malachi the last one? Micah, Malachi?
Yeah.
One of the M's. One of the M's, I'm sorry. It escapes me. But I should know that. It's late. But if you read it straight way through, then you cannot take these verses out of context. The context is there when you're reading straight way through, versus picking and choosing verses and filling in the blanks and things.
Let's grab a psalm and see if we feel better at the end of the day.
Yeah. So, final thoughts? Anything?
Think about the Sabbath. Think about what the Word actually says, guys. It's not something we've made up. Don't be deceived. Man will tell you to follow him, but we shouldn't.
Your human traditions, your man-made traditions.
Expect more videos like these. We're probably going to try to do some things on holidays.
That's a big one. My 10-year-old, no, 11, sorry. My 11-year-old actually brought that up today as one of the prayers that she had for the world, is that they would understand a lot of the holidays are not to be followed by people that profess to believe in God, and she wished that everyone would understand that. So I thought that was really kind of an eye-opener that maybe we are doing an okay job with teaching them things, because
both of them had something good to say.
Yeah, I felt like we were kind of falling behind a little bit, but to hear her say that really kind of made me feel a little better. So my final thought for you guys before we let you go, my final thought is, think about the 10 Commandments. They said, Jesus said, if you break one, you break all of them. And another place, it also says the same thing. If I believe in James, if you're guilty of one, you're guilty of all of them. So I want you to read Exodus 20 if you have time to. If not, just look up a list on your phone of the 10 Commandments and think about, okay, God number 1, there is no other God. Okay, that still applies. No idols.
Make sure
that still applies.
Don't look up the Catholic 10 Commandments. Yeah, they've changed those too.
They changed that, yeah.
They take credit for that as well.
Look up the Hebrew 10 Commandments. So God's number 1, no idols, so on and so forth. And the fourth one, no adultery, no lying, no murdering. Honor your father and mother.
I think number 4 is the Sabbath.
Number 4 is the Sabbath. So if all of the other ones still apply, even though Jesus came and died, like, duh, we shouldn't kill anybody. Well, that's easy to do. Obviously, we shouldn't commit adultery and cheat on our spouses.
Shouldn't cheat on your wife, right?
You know, that's kind of a no-brainer. Honoring your father and mother, depending on who they are, can be difficult, but you can still do that.
Absolutely.
You can respect them without and honor them without agreeing with them, or in some cases, unfortunately, having much to do with them. So we're not saying that you have to, be best friends, but you still need to honor them. But anyway, the 4th commandment is the Sabbath. So if we're not supposed to murder people, and we're supposed to keep God number one, and we're not supposed to have idols, and we're supposed to not commit adultery, and we're not supposed to lie, why would the Sabbath not still apply? So only 9 of the 10 commandments apply? It's just what I want you, that's what I want you to think about.
Yeah.
The number one commandment that says over and over in the Old Testament, because I've now read the Old Testament all the way through, except for like a few chapters in Jeremiah. I got a couple chapters left. I got to get through it. But I've actually highlighted every time it says, remember the Sabbath. Remember my Sabbath day. Keep the Sabbath, over and over. Now, it always says keep my commands, but it also specifies the Sabbath. It doesn't specify remember not to kill anybody, remember not to commit adultery. It specifies the
God
Sabbath.
Knew that
it's the easiest one to forget.
You're going to forget about it. And
it's the easiest one. It's the easiest one to
simple.
forget because we get busy with our lives. We have our lives. We have 4 kids. You know, he has a full-time job. I homeschool.
You have a full-time job.
Yeah, I'm trying to write a book, and he's trying to witness to people, and it's just, we're very busy. So when we decided, at first it seemed like a grandiose thing, like, oh, how are we going to put the Sabbath aside? Like, we have too much to do. But
puts us to about 1 day a week to do anything.
Yeah, outside of
on
working
Sundays,
and stuff.
by the way.
Yeah, on Sundays. Now, does that mean that we haven't gone to church on a Sunday? We've gone to some churches.
We've tried that, sure.
Mm-hmm. Kind of been chased out of them, but we've gone.
We're the outsiders. Think about that as well.
You shall be a peculiar people among the nations. Peculiar.
Well, back to the laughter earlier, that story we were reading about Paul and them, they were in Acts and they're just getting ran out of these towns.
Ran out.
Just get out of here. In this last
trying
one,
trying to throw rocks at them, and they
beaten,
got
thrown in prison, and the earthquake busted the chains, and they still stood in the prison and said, "Hey, before you kill yourself, there, Mr. Roman guard guy, let me tell you about Jesus." And it was a good story.
Because he asked, "How can I be saved?" And they said, "Believe on Jesus, not in Jesus, because the demons believe in Jesus. We have to believe on him." And that's a whole different video too. The difference between in and on. So we'll have to do that later. But believe on Jesus. So you might look that one up if you want a teaser for the next video or two.
Satan believes in Jesus. I don't think he's going to heaven. I don't think that's what it says.
He's kicked out. Or he will be.
And his demons, what was that? I am Legion?
Legion.
The old Legion. It was like
2,000.
2,000
And the one dude.
And the one guy.
The 7 and Mary Magdalene that Jesus healed her.
Yeah, those guys believed in Jesus, right? So
they believed in him. More than believed. They knew him personally.
They knew exactly who he was. They're like, holy
Son
moly.
of God. And he's like, shut up, demons. It's not my time yet.
Go ahead and jump in those pigs. Yeah.
It's not time yet. Go away. But anyway, I think that this was good and we should do it again.
We will. I promise not to laugh so hard next time.
Gosh, I hope not. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.